I'm now delighted to be joined by Jay Tavare. I think, Jay, that's the correct pronunciation of your surname.
It's actually it's Tavare,
Tavare.
but it's
Jay
Tavare. Yes.
Tavare, who played the role of Vega in the iconic Street Fighter franchise in the Street Fighter movie. 25 years on, I suppose. Jay, when you look back at Street Fighter now, 25 years on, still very much in the public domain, it's one of those sort of fighting games that have stood the test of time, like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, the Tekken, the three sort of famous sort of franchises. And
Yes.
if you're involved in one of those projects for computer fans and gaming fans and fighting movie fans, you're going to be remembered for as long as you live, no matter what other acting career roles. They'll always remember who is Vega, and how much of an honor or privilege was that for you to play that role?
Well, 25 years ago, 26 years ago, actually, when we started filming in 1994, I had some idea that this was a global game. I had done my research, I'd gone to the arcades, talked to the kids. So I realized it was a phenomenon at the time. But fast forward now, 26 years, it's become part of pop culture. That nobody could foretell, because when the movie first came out, it got some criticism regarding its being too soft and not enough fighting in it. But really, our director, writer, Steven D'Souza, did a wonderful job to create a world and a story that has survived almost 3 decades and still is in the popular culture. And Vega was, to me, when I read the script, right away it popped out at me. It was the flashiest role, and I felt like I could do it justice. My agent wanted me to go and actually read for Ryu. He thought I looked Asianic enough to play Ryu. But when I read that Vega and the entrance into the arena with his mask, with handing out roses, and it was kind of a pre-MMA, but I visualized the cage as a cage fighter. Like, when you think about it, Vega was the original cage fighter. Yep. Before that, we haven't really seen like that cage feel, that octagon feel that we got in MMA. So, and kind of Sagat, my boss, kind of says that in the movie, because I was the greatest, Iron Fist was the greatest cage fighter before me. So it was truly an honor. Only now, like I said, 26 years later, I realized as I travel through the world, and I've been in some Oscar-winning movies with people like Meryl Streep, Nicolas Cage, Tommy Lee Jones. I've been in Cold Mountain, The Missing adaptation, but people still remember me for my first role as Vega. And it just is touching. In fact, I was in UK recently, about a year or two ago. Even the custom guys at the airport recognized me as Vega. And for that reason, I always carry some Vega shots in my bag, because I can sign a couple and go right through the custom with no problems.
And I suppose, Jay, in terms of that, and it's one of those popular cultures, once you're involved in a sort of a big sort of industry, like in terms of Street Fighter, computer gaming worldwide, that even you develop new fans that weren't even born when the original movie came out, even so, because obviously the new Street Fighter games are getting, they look up, this is their Street Fighter movie, they want to watch it, they see who is Vega. So obviously there's you span generations of sort of fans, and their character Vega, it sort of stands the sort of test of time, because even you must be saying, or you meet some sort of fans, you'd be saying, if this guy wasn't even born when the film came out.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I go places where I see a grown-ass man come to me and says, "Would you sign this for my son?" And I look at the guy, go, "How old is your son?" He says, like 16. I go, "How old are you?" And I realize it's for him, not for the son. He's about 35, 40. And I know he was probably 15 when I was Street Fighter. And he admits it, he goes, "Yeah, it's for me." So, yes, absolutely. That's the beauty of our business, that you don't pick it, but certain films just stand the test of time, and you get immortalized because of it. You're always like, Stallone will always be a Rocky or Rambo, no matter what he does. And for me, the Street Fighter and Vega will always be part of who I am and what I did, and I will treasure it. I mean, I still have the Vega statue behind me and um, and the mask.
The mask. Dare we say the mask?
This the famous steel mask, and which nowadays is even more symbolic because we all have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
So it's it is it's something that I will always treasure. It's true. It's like, we age, we get older, but you can look back, and even my children's children, whoever I leave behind, they will be able to look back with fondness and saying, "Granddad was Vega."
And I suppose, Jay, we see in the computer games the character of Vega. He's a sort of, I would dare I say, the equivalent sort of, not wrestler, but a sort of his physique in terms of his bodybuilding and sort of that. In terms of that role, did they have a sort of specific characteristics that had to be met or in mind, or in terms of that? And how was that
Yes.
like?
All the characters, when they were casting for it, had a description attached to it. The Vega was very kind of interesting. It just said Latino, brutally muscled with matinee idol looks.
Okay.
So I guess everybody in Hollywood said, "That's me." but I just I understood that the challenge was not to go in looking too beefcakey, and that's what I worked on. I went in and tried to sell myself as an actor who could play the role, because I remember some of that I auditioned at least 4 or 5 times before I landed the role, and I remember each time I was seeing even guys from WWF, huge monstrous guys sitting in the waiting room wanting to play these roles, and none of them really landed the roles. I think our director was looking for actors who could bring the characters to life. And then they hired people like Benny the Jet, Benny Urquidez, who is a world-class, he's a legend in the martial art world, to train us for months before the movie. Several months before the movie, we started training. And then we even got to Thailand, where we started the movie, in Bangkok, again, a month before shoot. So we had like 2 or 3 months of hardcore 3 times a day training for like 6 hours a day. We were training, getting ready for these roles. So, and I came in shape, and I clicked with Benny, and Benny has become my sensei since. So I took it really seriously. It was my first kind of a big budget movie, and I worked hard, and I wanted to make the kids and the fans give me the thumbs up. And I think I achieved that, because even to this day, I get little fan letters, people saying, "You're still the best, Vega. You look the part. You look like the cartoon character." And I try to bring a lot of the moves that was in the game into the movie. In fact, if you look at that cage scene where Jean-Claude comes through and crushes the stage when I'm about to fight Ryu, a lot of people realize that when I dive out of the cage, I put Vega's dive in there. We actually fly out when he flies across the cage. And I have to tell you, in 1994, there was no wire works. I was not on wires. There was no trampoline. That was me really running on a stage that was breakable. If I stepped outside where it was marked, I would have gone through the stage and dived out of that for real. In fact, that night, Entertainment Tonight was there, and where they set up their camera, they got a better shot, because our cinematographer had no idea how far I was going to fly. I flew like 15 feet on that stage, just pure adrenaline. And I remember, like, when I watched the footage, the Entertainment Tonight had a better visuals of me, how far I flew. But it was moments like that that really made the movie come alive.
And I suppose, Jay, you spoke about the mixed martial arts element in terms of Street Fighter. And I know, speaking to Andrew, he had a bit of background in that. You obviously were well skilled in that. But what struck me was mentioning that some people came in very late in the movie, and obviously they went through the training. And one thing that surprised me was how well equipped they did in terms of teaching. I mean, Kylie Minogue, who came into the movie, was a pop singer, an actress, absolutely no history of mixed martial arts or fighting or whatever. And how was that to try and train her up to speed in terms of that, and obviously working beside her every day in terms of that?
Well, Kylie, believe it or not, I loved Kylie. I hit it off with her. A lot of people don't realize Kylie Minogue is a great dancer. And when you have that coordination and the ability to follow choreography, which she does on stage, that interprets well into people who want to learn stage fighting. Because stage fighting is so different than a real combat situation. You have to try to create the intensity of a fight without actually hurting your partner. So the grace, timing, flexibility, all those elements that Kylie has in real life as a dancer, as an entertainer, was able to interpret it. And everybody worked hard. I'm trying to tell you that I watched everyone train. Benny was not kidding. Benny the Jet was pushing us 6 a.m., 2-hour session, 12, 2-hour sessions, 6 p.m., 2-hour sessions. There was no, even during filming, we were training throughout the days on and off. So it was wonderful to watch everybody pretty much do most of their own fights. There's only a few moments that you can see stunt people at work. In fact, one of the reasons I've ended up doing all my stunts ever since that movie was because of Street Fighter. I did all of my own stunts, and my directors ever since said, well, you do your own stunts. And I kind of like became like an American Jackie Chan. I didn't plan on it, but I've always ended up doing all my own crazy stunts, including jumping out of buildings and everything ever since. So it was the will. Everybody had that will to go ahead and do it. Just Kylie had. And so we all did our best, you know?
And I suppose, Jay, one of your most iconic fight scenes in Street Fighter was when you and Sagat took on Ken and Ryu. And in terms of the choreography of that, in terms of the sequence and the moves, how long did that how long did it take to shoot that full fight sequence?
Like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay.
To be honest with you, our director recently, I did a Zoom session with our director, Steven D'Souza, and he, for the first time, revealed information I didn't even know. We had, especially Vega, we had some incredible fight scenes. In fact, that scene you just mentioned, I had done some amazing stuff in that scene where I actually do flips, run up walls. None of it ended up in the final cut. And it was mainly because they were going for a PG-13. And at the time, because we were one of the first like fight games that became a movie, the board of like the rates, the PG ratings and stuff was so hard on Street Fighter. Any blood, any bone cracking, anything was considered a no-no. And they kept rejecting the different cuts of the movie. So they kept cutting the fights down, unfortunately. But that fight, when I'm actually fighting Ryu, I was fighting, believe it or not, with a world-class Taekwondo black belt, triple Dan, known as Ernie Ray Sr.
Okay.
And Ernie Ray Sr. doubled Ryu. Although Byron Mann, who did his own stuff most of the time, he didn't do not all of it. He actually I had to fight this guy, it was full contact, by the way. I want you to know that what you see in the movie, we took the kicks, we took the blows. There was no pulling punches, except in the face maybe. But most of what you see was as real as you could get in the fight scenes. We were actually making contact. We always had bruises the next day, you know, and since I couldn't really wear much pads because my character was naked with a tattoo, I was taking those hits. I got kicked in the face a couple of times. You came out of those fight scenes really feeling you've been in a fight. But it was wonderful. I mean, everybody was on form.
I suppose, Jay, looking towards the future now in terms of Street Fighter, we've seen in the last decade or so, we've seen a renaissance of its great rival, Mortal Kombat. It did a TV series, a series that went out, a web series, and it has a new movie coming out in 2021. Do you think the Capcom universe and the Street Fighter universe, it's been roughly 20 years, are they sort of pining for a Street Fighter series on Netflix, or I suppose, or a Street Fighter, a new condemnation of the movie? I suppose, given what other games have been able to stress away now from the PG sort of bracket and becoming more, would I say, what Batman did in terms of the Dark Knight, it seems to have gone to that sort of extent. There seems to be more opportunities there for like the Street Fighter now to gauge towards that young adult sort of market. And obviously with platforms like Netflix and stuff like that, there's opportunity for 2 or 3 seasons, if not a movie. Do you think there's a real draw and a real appetite now for Street Fighter to come once more?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, UFC is like Street Fighter. And with fighters like Conor McGregor and O'Reilly, you guys in Ireland have some amazing martial art fighters now, and the popularity of having these MMA fighters who mix styles is kind of like what Street Fighter was about. It was the idea of bringing different styles together and see who was the true champion. Would a matador who uses ninjutsu skill beat someone who was a sumo wrestler? Could a sumo wrestler handle a Russian wrestler? Could a Russian wrestler handle, you know, a Muay Thai fighter? So that idea is more current now than even in 1994. And 100%, I think they're going to reinvent the series and bring it back. And fighting has never been more popular. In fact, martial arts has never been more popular. So I think for sure. In fact, I just recently saw another Street Fighter, which just focuses on Ken and Ryu's relationship with their sensei in Japan when they're getting ready. And it was really well done. It was actually well done. It was just basically how they training to do the fireballs and all of the powers they gain. And so I think it's just only a matter of time. I mean, like you said, there's a series in work. It seems like after 25, 26 years, there's like a resurgence of the game. And that's why Vega and all this Street Fighter is once again in the news. I've noticed there's been a huge like resurgence of it.
Yeah, and I suppose, Jay, in terms of the possibility of a future movie down the line, if an opportunity came about for you to play a cameo role, or not maybe as Vega, but a relation to Vega, or even
Vega's granddad,
or some sort of role, would that be something you would be up for? We've seen it in the past, how sort of personnel who have been involved in iconic sort of movies relive sort of parts. And if an opportunity,
I mean, in fact, to be honest, a few years ago, I did online. There's a young director. He makes these little YouTube movies called Superpower Beatdown. Superpower Beatdown, and where the fans from Comic Cons, they choose two heroes and they pit them against each other. And it was one with Ryu and Green Hornet, and the director asked me to play Vega in the series, which I did, and I played like the Vega who comes to referee these two. And right at the end, Green Hornet arrives to, the Green Power Ranger arrives to fight us. And I look at Ryu and says, I'm too old for this shit. And I walk off. So something like that. But you know what? I've stayed in shape. I still got the Vega arms. And if they give me the shot, I could do justice. Maybe not Vega, maybe another character. You know, maybe T-Hawk, the native one, because I have some native blood. So I don't know. If the chance arises, definitely I would love to, you know, come and do a cameo or something or be part of it, because it's you know, I've kept myself in shape for that reason. But I don't know how long it's going to last.
On that note, Jay, an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening to relive your memories of Vega in Street Fighter 25 years on. As you said, there's a resurgence in the popularity of computer games, Capcom, Street Fighter, and we've seen its rivals now, Mortal Kombat and Tekken, redoing a resurgence as well, big time as well. So obviously they're going to come cross paths again and start to come to blows. And it's almost these franchise, dare I say, once you're part of the Lumini, you're part of it forever. It's like the Hall of Fame. So you're the original Vega. You're the first one. You've big shoes forever. Whoever steps in your shoes to follow. It's been a pleasure, Jay, talking to you this evening.
My pleasure.
Best of luck in your future endeavors.
For sure. Take care, guys.
Take care, Jay.